Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Erasing Shame podcast. My name is Victoria Chang, and I am your co host for season 7 of Encouraging Christian Asian Mental Health. Today, my guest is Han, and I met Han almost a year ago in the winter slash fall. Fall was when I first met you, but winter was when I decided personally that I was like, I think Han should be on this podcast. And he said yes. And so here we are many months later, finally recording. Han, can you please introduce yourself to the guests of the show?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Han. I am from South Korea. I'm currently a graduate student in university in United States. I'm right now mastering in counseling, and I'm excited to speak about my life.
Thank you so much for joining. It has been a long wait. There have been some technical difficulties slash spiritual warfare, but we made it. And the first opening question we like to ask guests is, what comes to mind when you hear the word shame?
Um, I'll say it is definitely a major drive, I think, at least for me, and at least for, I'd say, a lot of people around me, especially Asians, I'd say. Um, I think the shame definitely like moves them to motivate themselves to keep working, study harder, to push themselves and almost like overwork. I think I've seen a lot of people getting burned out, and just to avoid that feeling of shame. And it saddens me because I think it's not happiness or joy or peace that we aim to. It's the absence of shame that we are aiming to. And even if we achieve the goal, like we don't achieve like anything positive. We just achieve just no shame. And that should be good enough for us. And I think we should aim more than that. And I think I'd love to like talk about, I'd say, regulating our emotions as well, if I can,
Mm,
I think. I
hmm
think that would be very helpful when it gets to learning how to not motivate ourselves based on shame.
mm. And shame is like a natural feeling. So it's not necessarily a bad uh, emotion, feeling, or idea, but
Mhm.
what comes out of it can be uh, positive for ourselves or negative. So yeah, I'd also like to talk about emotional regulation as well. Um, I also want to ask why and when did you decide to pursue counseling at university in the States?
So when I go back to my life in South Korea, till I was like second grade, I was just a normal kid. And I was just, doing elementary school just as usual. I don't think I really felt like I was like any further from ordinary. But I think so my parents used to be my father used to be a construction director and my mother used to be a nurse. And my father decided to quit company and try to run a restaurant, try to run his own business. And they just got really busy, and they just kind of became absent in our lives. So while I was just raising and I was like looking for someone to listen to me and hear me, and I decided to do that for my classmates, and I think that just didn't turn out well. So I was very much an attention seeker, and I was like always just kind of overdoing and like over like energetic and just I just it was like a rugby ball, I just didn't know where I was gonna bounce, and I think that kind of led to like a little bit of dislike um to some people and a lot of hate for some people. So that kind of led me to getting bullied a little bit. I remember like people just taking money away from me, or sometimes they would just like physically beat me up. I honestly don't have a lot of like memories out of it because I just I think I've been just trying to like delete as much as I can just because how painful it was. Looking back at that time, I now realize like what were really happening and how my parents were really not there for me to process any of this. So I realized that I had to learn how to um, be with people and how to please them, which made me kind of a people pleaser and also be able to look into people's like reading their atmosphere, reading their feelings. And I think I just became more curious about that. And now I think I'm trying to convert um, this like unfortunate memory into something good so that people in who are like teenagers or younger, like hopefully they won't have to suffer out of it. I'm still in like master's, so like I'm trying to finish the degree, so I'm like still far away from really being able to help people, but I hope that one day I'll be able to help the teenagers and students who are going through like, figuring out their identities and um, so that they won't have to really like learn how to like read people in such a negative way.
Hmm. Do you think there's a way to read people like positively?
I think if you are to, what do you mean by that exactly?
Because like I guess people pleasers
Hmm.
or people who grow up in environments where they need to read the room slash read people's emotions,
Hmm.
um, can develop like a heightened sense of awareness, and that can lead to overanalyzing. But then sometimes it is good to be able to read people's emotions,
Hmm.
um, because you can empathize maybe, or you can anticipate. There's like it can be positive, it can be negative. But I just wanted to clarify that you developed ability to read or anticipate driven from maybe a less positive motivation.
Yeah, I think it could have been the other way around because, if you build a good relationship either with your peers or either with your parents, I think um, you know, having fun and, just forming a good relationship can be a norm, Like I think having a good relationship with your parents, I think will naturally will lead you to wanting to um, have a good relationship with your peers. And that could be a positive motivation rather than, being anxious to see like, if they still like me or not and like do whatever it takes to make them like me. I think that's not the best way to approach relationship. So yeah.
I see. I see what you mean. Okay. Um, so you felt this way when you were like elementary school in South Korea?
Hmm. Yeah.
Did you feel that way as you grew up more like in high school or in college, or like when did things shift for you?
I think definitely when I moved to a different country. So I had not the best experience on the second half of my elementary school, but after seventh grade, um, that's I think when I really learned how to please people and how to almost wear a mask so that I can please them and make them like me. Um, there was an interesting memory of how I got out of being bullied is because there was a guy who was kind of leading the bullying and he actually um, was not present in the last class night of the first year of middle school. And everyone, after realizing like, bullying me and like, just kind of like leaving me out, I'd say, a lot. And after realizing, I can be a good social person or likable person, they were just kind of talking about the other guy were like, why is he bullying Han? Like, he's such a nice guy. Like, and um, I remember we all decided to send a text to him saying that we don't want to be friends with him. And I accidentally was the first one to send a letter or send a text. So I remember like just kind of like making everyone send it. And I did apologize after a few years, but it's almost an apology to forgive myself rather than really ask for forgiveness to the person. And um it still is one of my memories of, that journey. And I think ever since I wanted to like not make people feel like secluded.
Mm.
But I think people pleasing skills, I think, have definitely become a need when I went to Uganda. So in eighth grade, when I was like starting to form like normal relationship with friends, I, was just told by my parents that they're going to Uganda, and they're like, all right, you're gonna follow me or now, or you're just gonna stay with the grandparents. And I was like, no, I'll go with you guys. So I remember like, crying so much on an airplane while my sister was laughing at me. And ever
He
since I
wasn't
had to,
crying.
she was laughing so hard because she kind of wanted that like new adventure, But
Okay.
my life was just starting to get better, and it just all kind of like it was just all in vain. So it felt like not the best, definitely, but after I moved to Uganda, I had to learn everything new, like new culture, new language, new friends. So I think my social like just sense just had to like come into use. And yeah, I think I kind of learned. I mean, my language was still not like my English was not that good, so I had to like learn my ways to get better at it. But I learned that like, what works best, such as like I think music and sports definitely came into use because they're nonverbal. They can, still be enjoyed without having to fully understand each other.
Mm.
Um, Along with that, I think just other learning from like inappropriate languages to like thing like idioms and such. I think everything just all came into use, I think, regarding like learning how to be a good friend or peer in different cultures as well.
And in Uganda, were you at like a local school or an international school?
Um, I don't know if this is I remember it as being the poorest international
Okay.
school. I think among
Okay.
because we had like international like school of like Uganda that was like basically that's where all the ambassadors kids would go, but it was so
Oh,
expensive.
yeah.
So I was not like expecting myself to like, go to the richest like school all of a sudden, but I went to like not the best one for the first year in Uganda, but after that I went to the boarding school in Kenya called Rift Valley Academy.
Hmm.
And that's where a lot of the American missionary kids would go. So I'm pretty sure like over like 60% of them were like white. Like they're like American,
Oh, okay.
or I'd say like they definitely have like American heritage, or but may have been raised here in Africa for a while.
Why did you go to Kenya?
Um,
Is that just like where the school was? And so you happened to go there?
no. So I have a cousin who's older, and I think he's like 9 years older than me. And he and his family were actually the first generation to go to Africa, and they actually did business. But um,
Oh.
yeah, they like I think the older uncle ran a business, and he was sent to the Rift Valley Academy, and because of that, I think we just were naturally thinking that, yeah, like we got to go to that school because I think it also had a pretty decent reputation as well, and it was very friendly to missionaries.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did your life significantly change? Um, not just like culturally you're being uprooted, you go to a different country, but like with your parents, your relationship with your parents, because they decided to become missionaries.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact rather than the fact that, well, I guess it's both because not only have my parents changed their occupation, but also we basically have moved away from where we used to live. So it was a huge move. I have never left Korea till I went to Uganda. So
Mhm.
the first time I went like foreign country was literally on the opposite side of the earth. So it was quite an experience. And yeah, my lifestyle and everything definitely have changed. I I think the goodness that I got to um cherish is that 1 year before we left to the boarding school. Because till I was in eighth grade, you know how like Korean education is very, very rigorous and they expect everyone to go to the secondary school after the elementary or middle school. You've heard of Hagwon, right?
No, but I've
Okay,
heard
okay.
how rigorous
Right, right.
the Korean education system is.
Yes. So they are just told to study like 24/7 and there's no stopping.
There's like a ranking system too, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I did not appreciate that at all. Um, so yeah, it was just really rough. And thankfully, when we went to Uganda, there was no such thing as secondary school. Nothing was really rigorous. Um I still remember having to correct my um like math teacher like only using one word like this, and everything was just so much easier,
The
except
standard
that
was
like
totally different.
yeah, except that it was just English, so it was like tough in that way, but everything else was honestly much easier than I expected. So we got to spend a lot of family time after school, and I think I really felt like I was part of a family rather than like feeling like everyone's just like a working gear, like they just have to, my parents have to work to earn money and I have to study to, be contributing to my family. So it felt more personal and more relational. So I do have good memories on that. But it definitely felt different when I went to boarding school because now, except from like the vacation, they weren't really there. So I kind of had to figure out my like parental figure or like a mentor and stuff, which worked out pretty all right. So yeah.
That's good. How did your relationship with your sister change? Like, did you guys stay? I mean, I don't know what it was like before in South Korea, and then like any good sister, she's laughing at you while you're crying. I have photos of me laughing while my brother is crying.
Right.
Um, so I relate to that. But like in high school and boarding school, did you guys develop a closer relationship because your parents were away and you guys were kind of like the only two people who really knew each other until you developed other friends?
Yeah, I think it I think it got so much better in the beginning because like as soon as we left the boarding school, we stopped living under the same roof. So I think we kind of now had our like private or privacy, I'd say. So we realized how much we um almost like needed each other. I wouldn't say like I need her all the time, but I think whenever there was a birthday or whenever there was a holiday, because they're like my parents were not around, I had to rely on my sister and she was always there for me to cook food, and that's kind of like her love language. She's not she used to be not the best in apologizing after her wrongdoings, but she was still like would cook in the morning and just that was her kind of apology. So um but yeah, like I mean not only in holidays, but just being distant with each other, realize like how much we were just same. And, when we're put into a country where there's like just so many different people with so many different backgrounds, I think it's normal to cling to the ones who are similar to us, and that was my sister.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say like we were we would spend time with each other all the time because we both wanted to explore the world. We wanted to get to know new people, but we would set up like, every Sunday lunch, would just always hang out, would just always grab food and um just, make sure that we're there for each other consistently. Um, even after my high school, I actually, we both, my sister and I, went to university in the United States, and we went to different university because I chose not to apply in her school. Because I wanted to be away from her, not because of like I hated her. It's just that I wanted to just find a new path. And even then, I wouldn't say like I was super close, but I knew that she was there for me when I needed her.
Hmm.
And especially now, now that she got married in late March, and we all got to celebrate, and that was a good time. And I think ever since, um, along with my brother-in-law, I think we just make a really good relationship, and we sometimes play, League of Legends together, and then we don't have to, do all those like personal deep talks all the time. We just learned how to have fun online, even though we're apart from each other.
Mm.
So I think it's been a positive curve, ever since the departure of from Korea.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. Um, yeah, congratulations to your sister. I remember as that was happening, you were the one giving a speech.
Yes, I
Is
was.
it like it's not you're the brother of the bride, so did she ask you to write a speech?
Um,
Or how did that role fall into your lap?
uh, I kind of wanted to.
Okay, you
I was like,
advocated for yourself.
I kind of, well, I was wondering if she would be interested in the idea.
Oh,
And
okay.
she was like, yeah, I was actually kind of thinking about it, but I wasn't sure about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember, I think I like practiced it with you,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I still remember, I think for me, my favorite quote is, um, saying to my brother-in-law, saying that, thank you for the answering the long way to prayer. Yeah. So, and we
Yeah.
we kindly appreciate, we kindly accept. I think that's, yeah. It was kind of a, I don't know, like when they got married in the United States, I think there was a bit of a loss because not everyone from Korea got to be there from my family side. It was just my parents and my cousin's family who are honestly the closest, but
Hmm.
I personally think that it would have been much merrier if the whole family members were there. Um, and to hear my speech and actually understood it, that would have been much enjoyable. But I think there's also it was still a lot of fun though. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, three of my siblings got married this past year, May,
Wow. Okay.
June, and July.
Hmm.
So it's exciting, lots of change, but I think overall, we're lucky that we like our siblings-in-law.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, do you think that being a missionary kid, uh, are your parents still missionaries?
So they were self-funded missionaries.
Okay,
So my father, as having been a construction director, he
right.
actually helped with building the mission center. And my mother was a nurse, so she basically just went out and tried to treat the
Oh,
kids
okay.
as much as possible. But ever since I graduated, uh, they decided to stop. Honestly, they haven't been the most transparent regarding their ministry. Um, not that like it was like illegal or anything. It's just that like I think they wanted to keep that um as it is for some reason. I don't know. I think it was it almost felt like it was their privacy, even though like I helped out uh occasionally. But they stopped ever since I graduated, and now they're back in Korea.
Okay. Graduated high school, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's
College.
no, high school.
Oh,
So
high school.
it was very short, which is
Oh, okay,
interesting
okay.
because I call myself a missionary kid, but
Mm,
like, and I basically have, I personally would like to, but I mean, I would like to tell myself more about TCK because I know
yeah.
the missionary kids are, I don't know. I've seen plenty of people who have been to so many different countries and have their parents as missionaries for their entire life.
Hmm.
Um, but during my high school, I got to experience and got to listen so many missionary kids, and got to learn like what they go through, and it's yeah, it's just it's a lot. There's a lot of memories that are just like stuck in my head, and
Hmm.
I don't want to forget about it.
Yeah, I would say on top of you being a missionary kid, I definitely think you're a third culture kid. So for people who don't know who are listening, TCK means third culture kid. It's another one of those acronyms that we have in the, I don't know, not just the Christian community, because I know other people identify as third culture kids. Could you basically give us a simple definition of what third culture kid is, and then how you are a third culture kid, and how that shaped who you are now?
Um, Honestly, I actually recently have started to I have an assignment that I need to do for my research method class, and
Hmm.
uh I've been brainstorming about the topics, and one of them is about TCK and the how do I say, most prevalent mental illnesses, and it
Oh.
and I'm still in like the brainstorming phase, and I'm like checking out my professor about it, but it's interesting when I try to think of TCK because, you know, for me, still hesitant. I'm still hesitant about how to really define it because it's really not about where you have lived. It's
Mm.
about, it's not only about that. It's also about, so it's about where you have been raised and on what background you have been raised. Because I think there's so many American families who like to keep their culture, even though
Hmm.
they're in different countries, such as celebrating, well, celebrating Thanksgiving, celebrating different kinds of American holidays, playing American football and all these things. I think um, I wouldn't claim them as like, oh, if you have learned that, that's not TCK, but it's I'd say it's also about, yeah, how you have been raised and where you have been raised.
Hmm.
To be honest, I gotta say, I still struggle to really
I
define
mean,
it,
that's
but
something you might work out in your
yeah,
paper. And
yeah, yeah. For me, I'd say, because I have been raised in Uganda and Kenya and have moved to United States.
and
I
you're
just have,
Korean.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so even though there's a lot of Koreanness in me, I definitely feel different
Hmm.
when I try to connect with Koreans. There's just a feeling that I'm just not like them.
Mm.
And I think as it's, yeah, I think it really depends on like what your heart says. If you feel a little bit off or different from the people who have been raised in one um, country or background, I think it's I think it's safe to say that you can call yourself a TCK. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a flexible, in a way, a sort of flexible definition for different TCKs, because you can have multiple cultures from, yeah, where you were raised, not just where you live. Um, where do you feel most at home, or who do you feel most at home with, given that you have all of these different experiences from living in different places slash being with different people?
I think it's a constant. I was actually thinking about this for the past few weeks, and it's hard to say because um I think I'm always on the lookout for it. Like I used to say that my physical home is Korea.
Hmm.
Um, and my spiritual home is Kenya because that's when I think I believe my belief has changed significantly. Um, and my current home is United States. Um, but there's always a longing, I think, always longing for a community who's just, geographically and how do I say it, mentally just around and close. And recently I got to find that, and it really feels like home to me. But there's also a fear of, how it's been less than a year since I felt like, it's been at home. And there's a fear as a TCK as, having to move on, just, one home to another and just, being that like forever traveler. There's
Hmm.
beauty in it, I think, but there's also a consequence that comes with it.
Hmm. Yeah, you might find yourself wondering, like, will this last? Like, I found this now, but is it permanent? Will it change?
Right, right.
That's
Like you,
something else you can discuss in your paper if you choose
yes,
the topic.
very true, very true. You see yourself, adapting so quickly to new environment, yet when you see yourself in the long term, you just almost your body feels like you're just ready to go. And you look at the luggage, you look at the airplane, like you just, it almost feels like, if you are told that you have to go today or
Mm.
tonight, you feel like you can just leave without like hesitance.
That's conditioning. So yeah, emotional
Yeah.
conditioning almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it could be it's like gives you flexibility, I guess, and in some ways forced flexibility, but at the same time, it can be something hard to unlearn to like enjoy where you are right
Oh
now,
yeah.
enjoy the
Yeah.
home that you found, the
Yeah.
community that you found.
There's a lot of fear, I think. I think the more I feel connected, there's also a fear of like what would happen if they leave me. And it's just I think that feeling of like just mourning and feeling almost like betrayed, even though, for them it may not feel that way because they probably have like their secure home that they won't have to worry about. But I guess for me, it's just a constant seeking of finding home, staying there, and just like preparing yourself for the next one. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's definitely fun. There's a lot of episodes to tell, but yeah,
Hmm.
there's always a constant longing of it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Hopefully you'll be at a stage in your life where there's a little bit more stability, like you know where you'll be maybe for a little bit longer than just a year or two,
Yeah, yeah.
and you
That
can
is
make your home.
that is definitely my goal. I mean, so the home that I've been referring to is the church
Hmm.
community they have that I have met this year recently. Or yeah, in like February, I'd say. And I feel like I really don't have to be someone more than I am now.
Hmm.
There's a lot of vulnerability that I'm willing to reveal, and they are willing to accept that as it is. And I really appreciate that. And um, and like I've been trying to host them a lot, and I've like my food, my love language is also food, so I like to, cook for them and cook for any international students in my university um, to make them feel home. I try,
Hmm.
um, but I'm also like trying to finish my grad school, so life gets busy. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, that's really good because I remember when we first met, I was church hopping, and you were saying that you had found a church, but you weren't sure. And then over the course of these months, these past months, it seems like your investment has paid off or is, like there's a point
hmm
where when you're new to a community, you have to choose whether or not you're going to like allow people to get to know you
hmm
or be intentional about getting to know other people. So I'm happy to hear that you have that sense of home within your church. And you're also building a sense of home sort of at the
right,
university.
right, yeah. I think I have I personally feel like I have um, been with university students very often. Now I think I'm more invested in church because as much as university means a lot to me, I think if we are to find a community, not only in the future, but even now, I think it has to be church because university is not a family of, Christians, um, who are there. It's not a, how do I say, it's not a personal community.
Hmm.
It has like other purposes, more educational. And I think a lot of relationships can spur out of it, which is great. But I think church is a more permanent and more relationship directed institution that'll help us to learn how to, yeah, learn what it's like to have a home.
Yeah. Yeah. I can testify to that because I'm still friends with people from like churches back uh where I used to live, but not so much all the people that I went to college with.
Right.
Um, I want to ask you this question. It could be the last question, but it could also, you could talk about anything else that you want to after it.
Mhm.
But I was curious, what is the mental health stigma like among Koreans? And then on top of that, um, sorry, I'm giving you two questions to think about at once, but
That's
on
fine.
top of that, what is the stigma of mental health like about Korean Christians? So first, just Koreans in general, because I don't know. I
Mhm.
know for Chinese people, sort of Chinese people in the United States at least, but not ch Chinese, mainland Chinese or whatnot. And then Christian Koreans is like a whole different
Right, right.
community.
Um, I'd say it's
Not to say you
pretty.
know all of them, but
Oh
just if
yeah, no,
you could
I'm.
generalize.
It's been a while. I think
Yeah.
since I really lived in Korea, but I try to watch a lot of like Korean YouTube channels, and
Hmm.
I like to see certain incidents that are going on, and I think it can be the first thing that stands out. I think it's this is their luxury consuming rate, I think population wise, is like the highest in the whole country or like the entire globe. And that kind of surprises me, or actually it doesn't, because I think they care so much about others, and it's just such a competitive world. And I think it's everyone knows that. I think that's why K-pop has like become so great, and that's why everyone there is so studious and like just so smart and great at like esports and all that. I think, but those are like top like 0.1%. And I think it's so easy to ignore the other 99% who just get sacrificed in this like unending competition. Um, Recently there's been a decrease of the birth rate. I believe it almost hit like 0.67, which is like every generation the population is decreased by like one third. So it's just like the numbers are crazy, and
That is
um
very low.
yeah, it's insane. It's like the in order to maintain the population you need to have it. I'm pretty sure it's like at least 1.2 or something, but like we're like way below.
Below
It's
below point one or
it's like
yeah.
everyone's like saying like it's hopeless to live in Korea because everyone is just so like focused on comparing to one another,
Hmm.
and like they look at like social media as their main instrument, and then if you look at that, like there it's not even like an average. Like what you see is not average. They always like almost show window like whatever they want to show. It's like their ideal self, and
Hmm.
everyone thinks that like high 20% of the entire population is the norm, and
Mm.
they stop like to think that you know earning like how do I say certain amount of salary is like below average, even though it's exactly the average. Like the statistics say otherwise, but they're just so consumed with what's the norm in social media that they need to keep up with that. And there's just a lot of um, defeating and just feeling of shame of like not meeting the expectations. And sometimes like they even like overconsume at a point where they really can't maintain that lifestyle.
Hmm.
And it's just saddening to watch all of this. And and then there's some people who are trying to like bring other people down to their level by like saying like, oh, like you can't be as good as like someone who's much better than you. Like if you're a millionaire, then like you're not really good as like billionaire. And like it's just like a hideous like comparison. It doesn't make sense, but
Hmm.
they choose to do that because they can achieve it. And for them to make themselves feel good about themselves or feel normal, they have to bring others down. So on one side, here's like top 1% it's like shining, and then 99% are just suffering from like unending like criticism to one another and just this like push of shame. And it's just it's a tough society, and everyone's just so smart. Like speaking of the ranking system, I was like top like 33rd percentage, and I felt horrible because like I was not in like top 10% like my sister. So it's just
Wow.
like it's insane. It's just, and now I'm here and I'm like it's just I'm so I there is hardship in living here, but to the compared to them, it's just yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Um yeah, I'd say that's the first half. And Korean Christians is like another story because along with the decrease of just like I don't say decrease. I think because everyone's so competitive and they're just like spending their whole time um trying to study instead of trying to find the meaning of life or trying to find like how do I say a constant, I guess. Um there's just been a decrease in Christianity as well. And along with the Christianity, I guess because like I'm a young adult, I just always focus on like the problems with the young adults, and the problem lies on like not only the decrease of numbers but also the burnouts, because there's a um, almost like a disconnection between the first generation where they had to suffer believing in Christianity and trying to do whatever it takes. There's a second generation who had a better like environment to worship God, but now because of the education, they just feel like they have to spend the time like not at the church but at school. So even on Sunday, they would like try to study. And all the young Christians would see that and be like, oh wow, now I feel behind.
Hmm.
So there's just that of like, pressure of like, trying to be useful in a society versus, trying to, you know, stay in church and trying to do things. And along with the decrease of people, now the more roles rely on them. I recently talked to one of my friends who are like one of the like small group leaders, and now she's told to do like not only the worship leader but also the small group leader and also do like other volunteers, and it's just like on and on. And it's just there's with the decrease of leaders and decrease of like everything, everyone just get like burned out and they just stop everything. So like that, those jobs now are distributed to even lesser people. So I think it's just like hard to just connect with God and just worship Him, um, because they're so busy trying to make the church run, which is not essential, but there's just a disconnection with like first generation being like, wow, like I've tried so hard to, come this far and you guys can't even do as same as that, versus like second generation are just, just being pushed from like the secular world and like the Christian world. So
Yeah.
yeah.
There's
I
a
talked for
gap.
quite a long. Thanks for listening on that.
I mean, I asked a big question. Um, I recognize some similarities, I think, just in general of culture, like the need or the pressure to perform and succeed, whether it's educationally, financially, status, whatever. There is that pressure, especially in first world countries, um, where um, we look at each other and we compare, and if we're not happy, we'll bring each other down. And I don't think that's just unique to like Koreans or Americans.
Mhm.
But I will, from what I'm hearing, it's like a different world in the levels of comparison. It's like, um, a different kind of pressure. Um, and for Korean Christians, how do you think we can address burnout? Um, like how like what advice or what is your own personal um like way to deal with burnout as you're asked in your church to take on more roles because there's a need but not as many people who can fulfill that need or are willing to prioritize it and that they don't have the support necessarily. Another big question.
Right, right. I mean, I think the obvious answer,
Mm,
always is communication, I think. But it's always hard because of such a how do I say, like, hierarchy existing in a church. There's a straight uh how do I say, like, vertical structure. So it's just hard to reach out to pastor. They're just not in a like horizontal structure where I can just reach out to them and then they'll just listen to us.
right.
Um, I think, when I was in Korea, because I had to, serve in the military, after I graduated undergrad, um, I remember throughout the COVID, the communication was just so lacking, and just everything I think was just in a tough place. And I remember like assistant pastor like leaving a month before summer retreat, and like everything was just very chaotic. And I think it's just like at that point, um, I guess like first is always like like going back to Christ and like realizing how certain things that we do that does not work out well is just it's just a lost cause, honestly. Like sometimes you really can't do much about it. And second would be, yeah, communication with the pastor. Um, I think it's always helpful to have the assistant pastor who is there for you. And I think, addressing to them first, um, is a necessary step, for the main pastors to recognize the gravity of it. It's a it's a pretty hard path because
Yeah.
the system just doesn't change. And I think there's also almost a slight discrimination of like young adults worship and like services. If older people were to prioritize, they would prioritize adult service. So if they were
Mm.
to share a um, same like a location, like it's definitely a generational trouble. Um, but if we stop trying, I guess, then it's
Nothing will ever
nothing. Yeah,
happen.
nothing's gonna change. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I've just seen so many different cases. Like
Mm.
I've seen assistant pastor leaving because the system didn't change. I remember um assistant pastor like creating like a complete new church because the system didn't work. Um, I remember a pastor like leaving, main pastor leaving because the system didn't work. Like it's just so many things, like so many people just leaving, and like it's just yeah, it's just that hard to break the system. So I think like understanding how difficult it is, I don't know. I hope that it relieves people from like you know, getting frustrated from like changing the system. You know, in counseling, I guess like people have like not sometimes like very maladaptive systems, and they have that because even though there's 99 bad things that are going to be there if things don't work out, if one thing works out well and if gives you the best feeling, they will maintain that system because of that one good feeling that they're going to have despite that 99 flaws it has. And I think the same goes for the church system as well. I think because it has worked till now, it's just gonna work. It's just gonna keep going on, and it's gonna be resistant to change.
Mm. Yeah, I recognize some of the things that you're saying just from hearing like about other church situations um, where it's hard to create change, especially when you're working with people. People are flawed, whether they're Christian or not. Yeah. We are getting to almost an hour, so
That's crazy.
I do want to wrap up this episode. But is there anything that you would like to say for your final comments or final topic to close?
So I'm planning to attend, I believe it's called Mental Health Missions Conference in the coming November. And um, I think it's just, um, sorry, I'm just trying to like formulate my thoughts,
Oh, you're
trying
good.
to like figure out if I want to talk about this or not.
I mean, you could just promote the conference if you don't want to talk about it. And you can always talk about it
Right.
after if you want. We could have you on the podcast to talk about what you learned there. Um,
Yeah, maybe I can push it to the next one. I don't know. I don't know if if I'm gonna have the next one, but if the
yeah,
opportunity rises,
it's
yeah,
up to everyone's schedules and things like that. But yeah, so you're going to a mental health
missions
conference,
conference. It's in
mental health
yeah,
missions conference.
yes, yes.
Oh.
It's discussing different, yeah, obviously different kinds of mental health struggles in missionaries, and it. I've been there was like a book from a first one. I think I'm not sure if it was the first one, but there's one my mentor attended last year, and she gave me a book about it, and I've been just reading about it, and it's just really interesting because it shows just how bad family was when when the missionaries first went to a foreign country and trying to do missions for Christ while trying to also maintain family. And
Mm.
I heard like so many, not only have I heard so many things that went wrong in my like high school times, but
Hmm.
even more previous times, it's just been a struggle to, you know, try to stay connected with the family because they just were just always absent.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's just like interesting to not only observe um, just the mental illnesses that happened because of this, but also I'm excited to just honestly network with um, people because I know one of the people from Rift Valley Academy is gonna be there. So um, yeah, I mean, there's also honestly a component of like me trying to figure out ways to stay in the United States because
Mm.
it's just so ironic that um, while like all the STEM majors are allowed to stay for like, with the OPT and like job visas, it's just so much more available. Yet I think mental health is, while like
Not
so
seen as
many,
necessary.
yeah, like while so many people are struggling with it, yet like there's no system there. Like I personally feel like, well, not feel like I was, from a previous conference that I went, they basically told me that I was a unicorn because I not only have multicultural experiences, but also have different ethnicity, obviously. And
Hmm.
um, not, um, yeah, it's just crazy how there's just not a lot of visa programs that are there to support counselors or to be counselors so that they can
Mm.
actually finish not only the grad school but also the licensure so that they can stay in US and support um, international students or
Mm.
TCKs in United States because I think it's always increasing numbers in the mental health problems.
Yeah. I'm actually glad that you brought that up because that's something new I haven't thought about. And especially as like an Asian American, when I'm looking for a counselor, most recently, I prefer to choose someone who has multiple backgrounds or at least knows what it's like to be of a minority culture sometimes, or just have like cultural um like understanding, which you don't, a lot of the counselors that are available in America are European descent or just very American, but like to have counselors who, might be able to relate to you more, there is such a need for that. And so there is a problem where there's not really a bridge between um,
Yeah. Yeah.
having more
It's
international visa programs.
right. It's just a lot of, to be honest, like there's grace because it's just a lot of undiscovered areas. Like
Yes.
obviously I do appreciate the CBT and other like Western model counseling methods that have like significantly promoted mental health, but um I guess like it's hard to observe the effectiveness of CBT and such Western models when you try to compare that to, you know, like international
Eastern
students
culture.
who have like different values and different systems. And
Hmm.
um it's I guess like there's yet to be more like, how do I say, effective methods that have been discovered to
Hmm.
really support variety of cultures.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much for giving your time to try and record this multiple times. I am so glad
We finally
that
did
this
it.
episode has gone smoothly. Um, uh, we'll put any contact information like your LinkedIn or any social media that you'd like to share in the show notes so that people can reach out to you or um, potentially offer you an internship
Yes,
or,
please.
network with Han. He's a very empathetic listener and he's a very practical person. Um, I've witnessed this personally just from, planning with him and communicating with him. Um, so I look forward to whatever you're gonna do next, and just seeing how you build um, your career, but not just your career, but like your mission and your home, wherever that may be. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Erasing Shame podcast. Get this episode's show notes at our website, erasingshame.com. Subscribe to the Erasing Shame podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or any podcast app. And please add a rating and review so that we can reach more people with our message of hope and healing.